US intelligence chief has pledged to explain why Russia allegedly interfered in the US presidential election. The director of national intelligence, General James Clapper, says the Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered the hack of Democratic Party emails, and the motive will be revealed next week. Well, for more on this story, Micheal Cox joins us now in the studio. He's the Director of International Academic Affairs at Bahcesehir University here in Istanbul. Thank you very much for coming in to talk to us. First things first, I just want to ask you what your assessment is of the evidence and the claims that we've seen put forward so far by General Clapper.
Generally speaking, the U.S. intelligence agency is very good at digging up evidence, and from what little has leaked out, it seems like they have a strong argument to prove and justify their contention that Russia was somehow involved in the U.S. election.
So, what would the motivation have been for the Kremlin? Why is Trump preferable for them to Clinton, for example?
Trump would be preferable because he's seen as outside the Beltway individual. He's not tied to U.S. policies. He could be more flexible. He could be open to negotiation. He might even have personal tendencies that are very similar to that of Vladimir Putin.
From what you've read and what you know, does this seem as if Trump would have been unaware of this happening, or is there a connection, do you think, a stronger connection between
Trump would have been completely unaware. There was no way that either of the campaigns, Democratic or Republican campaigns, could have known of this type of involvement.
So how is he likely to respond, do you think? Does it all depend on the briefing that he's getting on Friday?
A lot of it will depend on the briefing. Trump has taken this as a very personal issue because it casts into question the legitimacy of his election as President of the United States. So he's going to be paying a lot of attention to this.
So how big a problem is this potentially then when you've got the president-elect at loggerheads with the intelligence community?
Historically, it hasn't worked out well. Some analysts are comparing it to Nixon's relationship with the intelligence community in the 1970s, and that didn't bode well either for Nixon's presidency or the status of the U.S. intelligence communities in the 1970s. The thing that's important to keep in mind here, however, is that the intelligence community has not said that Russian involvement directly impacted the election. They haven't claimed that there was vote meddling, just that through disinformation and other sources they have had an influence on it. So Trump is taking this in a very personal way, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it had that widespread of an influence on the result.
So how do you envisage this playing out? Do you think this is something that will rumble on for weeks and months, or will get resolved by the time of the inauguration?
I think that when Trump listens to everything the intelligence community has to say about Russian involvement, that he will be able to paint a more accurate picture of what actually happened, and that will influence his opinion.
Okay, Micheal Cox, thank you very much for coming in and talking to us.